This documentary will acquaint you with the artist Silvercloud, a quarter-blood Chickasaw and Cherokee woman. You will see some of her work both as an artist using several media and with children as an artist in residence. The first part documents her first such residency, in which she worked with 8th graders to produce a 4 by 6 foot fiberwork. It was decided that she also should install some of her work in the school library to offer a museum experience to the students at the Barnstable Middle School on Cape Cod in Massachusetts. Her 10 years as a classroom teacher and later as an art supervisor helped her engage and respond to the children.
Do you remember the story of the flood?
Noah's Ark?
Noah's Ark. This is the mountain. We've got it. And so the rainbow was after the flood, and that's why the title is this way.
The pieces chosen represented several weaving techniques and apparatus. These included a backstrap loom, a 10-harness floor loom, and an arch-shaped loom she invented after a car accident in 1973 made treading the floor loom difficult. Her innovation, an equidistant radial warp, is considered by the Textile Museum in Washington, D.C. to be, quote, unique in history, unquote. It requires tapestry techniques and therefore returns to the very labor-intensive style of weaving done for millennia, true hand weaving, but on a radial warp. Silvercloud and a student are starting to weave on her strung loom. Concentric circles of nails hold the partial warps to restore a 1/4-inch spacing to diverging threads. Comparisons of the work to a Plains Indian headdress suggest an emergence of her Native American ancestry. Silvercloud often served VSA Arts as an artist in residence. Here, a face-painted participant learns on a custom-designed inkle loom. Here, the artist is making an adjustment to one of her weavings, for which she used no apparatus at all. Silvercloud conducted several artist-in-residences across Massachusetts. At the Pepperell Middle School, all 5th graders wove on cardboard looms. Selected students chose from 4 small group classes with the artist. All their work was displayed, and a large framed piece was presented to the school for permanent display. During a residency in Duxbury, as part of the town's 375th celebration, Silvercloud led students in the creation of a rope sculpture commemorating the rope industry that had flourished in Duxbury in the 1800s. Here, 7th graders learn how the rope for sailing ships was made. 6 students were chosen to also learn macrame knots, another nautical tie-in. The finished work is 4.5 by 10 feet and was hung from the wall of the cafeteria. After the residency in Duxbury, the Museum of the USS Constitution engaged the artist to teach rope making during several school vacations. As part of the project, she taught the museum staff so they could offer the activity later.
And you're going to turn, at this table, you're going to turn that direction. Now, those of you who are here watching, you're going to see this rope start forming up right here where Jeffrey, this young man here, he's going to start twisting, and you're going to see some rope form.
Some simple apparatus, including garden rakes, were needed to hold the twisted cords apart. If the separate cords were to touch, they would get gnarled and make very uneven rope. The students at the cranks turned in cadence so as to put equal amounts of twist in each cord.
Good job. Good job.
Now, 3 of the ropes are combined, then doubled to create a hawser large enough to tie an ocean-going vessel to a pier, and what began as 27 pieces of 3-ply cord, each 40 feet long, has become a rope several inches in diameter, but less than 15 feet long. Now it is clear why rope walk buildings had to be so long. Even 100 feet of rope is a very short rope on a large sailing ship, such as Old Ironsides when she is tied to her dock.
I'll bet you that some of you have questions you'd like to ask. So if you do have a question, you would just put your hand up and I'll try to get to as many as I can in red and yellow and mix some of it together. What we gonna have? Everybody? Orange! That's right. That's right. You have done color mixing, so you know. What if I took red and this time I mixed it together with some blue? What would we have? Purple! That's right. Now what color's left?
White.
Oh, okay. I'll ask it this way. Let's take some yellow and some blue and put it together and what do we have?
Green.
That's super. And what if you want to make a color more pastel, lighter in color? What would you add? Everybody?
White.
And what if you wanted to make a shadow of that color or make it darker? What would you add? You're wonderful.
A mural was a huge project in Silvercloud's residency for the Onset Elementary School, only 1 block from the beach. The principal wanted to document the environmental as well as the fun activities that kindergarten through 3rd grade children enjoy there. After tracing some poses onto paper, then onto the wall, parent volunteers helped the very young artists fill in the shapes. A reception was held for the dedication of the artwork when it was finished. In 2000, Silvercloud was invited to show her work in a gallery in South Yarmouth. Although she had 4 solo museum shows and several juried shows to her credit, she wanted to support that gallery's focus on artists with physical challenges. She chose some very personal work to display. Within a year of her accident, Silvercloud made a life mask as part of the Faculty of Art Academy. She began to mold faces during the next few years from clay given her by various friends who were potters. This became part of an odyssey inward as she explored what personality traits she wished to retain, modify, or omit. The first of 6 facets was the Gibson girl, with her hair carefully arranged to cover the one imperfection on her glazed porcelain demeanor. Next to be seen on the sculptural headstand is what becomes of those who obsess on perfection, the broken visage and disheveled hair of mental breakdown. Named for Bedlam Asylum in London. The green glazed mermaid is the first to document the artist's love of nature. Her longing to be seaside began when she first saw the ocean in 1965, when she arrived in New England from the Missouri Ozarks. The stoneware clay of the Earth Mother perfectly conveys the underlying rock that serves as foundation for the autumn trees, lakes, and reflected sunlight, depicted in the loops of yarn around the face. When the clay for this face was pressed into the mold, there was a thin area near the edge of one of the eyes. While sanding the face, the artist accidentally made a small hole and considered reconstituting the clay and beginning again. But the location of the hole suggested it was time to express her Indianness. Since she also was doing some silversmithing at the time, she fashioned a sterling silver teardrop to fit in the opening. The last face made and the last scene on the totem represents the artist's awakening to the promise of life abundant. At last her eyes are beginning to open, thus the title, I Slept Through Many Identities. The irises of the eyes are wrapped with gold thread to symbolize the light of the world shining out through her life to others. The porcelain face is not smooth nor perfectly glazed, but it is of no consequence now, this face declares. Increasingly, inner peace and a growing sense of humor make mental compulsions but a dim memory. Ritual robe. Sometimes Silvercloud starts with many colors and textures, in this case, navy, rust, several golds, and the basic blue mohair. Then one by one she eliminates some elements as the work progresses. This serves to refine and focus the piece and to increase its impact. While there are a few persons who could actually wear this robe, it was not created as wearable art. The concept from the outset was to create a sculpture. Strong downlighting accentuates the three-dimensional quality of the work, making shadows and highlights. It measures 7 feet by 4 feet by 8 inches. The armature was fabricated of steel reinforcement bar to the design of the artist. This piece forms the centerpiece of another work composed of 3 armatures and garments called Four-Way Conversation. At one of her first solo museum shows, a man stood looking at the 3 sculptural forms, and it appeared as if he were part of a conversation among 4 people at a reception, thus the name. Gloria in Excelsis Deo. Silvercloud was married in this robe in an outdoor chapel in New Hampshire. The gold depicts the golden glow of leaves around the chapel in October, and the white unspun roving at the bottom is woven in a chevron design to suggest the mountains nearby. The robe was fashioned from a long piece of woven art fabric, folded in half. The triangular shapes, cut out to fit the robe to the body, were applied to the upper edge to become palestrina sleeves. Silvercloud was married in this robe in an outdoor chapel in New Hampshire. After the wedding, when she next looked at the piece, the artist considered how to display it. She made an armature from a brass rod and suspended the robe from it. This allowed the robe to gently rotate in the air currents of a gallery as people passed it by. The name Gloria in Excelsis Deo came when the artist saw the piece thus and imagined the Christmas angels and their song. The work measures 5 feet by 6 feet. A convex view of Sandy Neck Dunes. Another exploration of the unique possibilities offered by her loom is a convex view of Sandy Neck Dunes. In this piece, the landscape of Silvercloud's favorite place on Cape Cod is morphed from a horizontal orientation to semicircular, as if seen through the convex lens of a camera. Very specific conditions of sea, land, and sky are documented in this work. The tide is out, leaving the sand near the water wet and darker than the dunes. The white caps on the ocean tell of a strong, steady wind. And the white angora the artist spun into the sky's blue yarn shows that a bank of clouds is approaching the horizon. A length of tan suede marks the location of a trail worn across the dunes by ATVs and RVs. Unsheared sheepskin represents marsh grass. The wood triangle that completes the work resembles a boat's quarterboard and was hand-sawn by the husband of the artist from a huge plank of exotic wood. The undulations in its grain echo those of the dunes, and a bit of bark was left along the top edge to add to the nuances of nature in the work. It is 4 feet by 5 feet. Calico Scallop Shell. Still trying to discover more ways to exploit her loom, Silvercloud found she could add nails to make the shape of the scallop shell's base, warp only part of the loom to capture the shape of the sides of the shell, and release some warp threads to make the scalloped edge of the shell. The piece measures 36 inches by 44 inches. Another experiment with her loom was "And There Was Light." Here she left golden warp threads exposed. Adjacent silver arches grow larger as they progress outward from the center, making a dynamic effect, light radiating at the moment of its creation. Earth, Sky, and Teepee is composed of two geometric shapes that hang from a steel armature, abstractions of a teepee and of the plains landscape, predominantly sky. The armature was designed so that the triangular shape is held in front of the rectangle, creating a foreground-background relationship and contrasting the portable dwelling with the vastness of the American plains. Having united the two yarn colors into a potential jacket, Silvercloud experimented with making a wall piece, thus its name. The Hawaiian goddess of volcanoes explores flow theory. Here, paint was floated on water and the monoprint image was captured on cotton fabric. This work is another marbled piece. Here, the back of the glass is the canvas with foreground objects painted first. Velvet and velour valise. This work looks like a satchel made of pieced cloth. It is, instead, a tour de force of dyed white velveteen. It is lined with lush velour and lightly quilted with golden thread and embellished with turquoise French linen knots. Various jewelry pieces are shown around and in it. The body of work of any artist is not often as varied as that of Beth Silvercloud. The life in art for her is more than the visual. It also embraces the sound of art. She worked with David Niles as he orchestrated the music of several songs, one of which has been playing in the background during several segments of this documentary.
The only way I could sing these songs is to sing them either unaccompanied or with this auto harp where I would hit a chord and I'd hit the next chord, and it was almost like singing it to a guitar. So it probably sounded to anybody listening more like a country song, you know. And you have put this song, and there's a spot right here, and I got a jazz trio going behind me. That's the way it sounds to me. The glory of the Lord has come. The glory of the Lord has come.
Part of the production effort was to audition and to rehearse all the musicians and singers. So it was a one-person show altogether, I guess.
The program is offered to students as a degree in between a master's degree and a doctoral program.
The title that seemed to flow through all three of these songs was Rescue and Reconciliation. The Psalm 18, which is the third piece, is a real clear picture of somebody who's in trouble and who feels like they're going down for the third time. And then it shows the majesty and the power and the tender gentleness of a rescuer. and of the Almighty God who comes to the rescue of that person. So it was just I would start to say testimony. Those three songs were just telling how I've experienced God to be. The first song is really my song. It came out of who I am and my relationship with the Lord. And the second song is just a celebration of that relationship and showing how He changes darkness to light. The jewelry, I wanted to design something that would have motion to it. I wanted something to be highly reflective. So I just happen to have it here. I designed it so that it would be dynamic. Instead of just a flat, shiny something that a dancer would wear, it seemed to me that it should have motion to it as she danced. And I embossed all the pieces so it'd be more reflective to the light when she did open up her robes and begin to move in that celebration of the chorus.
Now that she's officially out of school, she'll continue to teach jewelry, painting, and textile techniques at the Fuller Museum and out of her home on Main Street.
And BTV's Jim Moore talked to Silvercloud about her art in her life.
Weaving is an art form, but it's also very functional. It started out being one of the most ancient of things that human beings do. And these girls are learning persistence, as you've seen this morning as they were correcting things so their edges would be straight and so that the piece would really be a piece of art this morning. It teaches persistence and diligence and pride in doing a job well.
How often do you present these kinds of programs?
I did a weaving in Barnstable with the middle school about 10 years ago. I weave privately and am a member of the Weavers Guild that meets here in the public library every month. For the most part, when I do residencies, I do maybe murals or it isn't frequently that a school wants pure weaving. I've had museum shows of my fiber works and of my jewelry that I make in several museum solo shows and then in many juried shows. I do many surface techniques like dyeing. It's called discharging, when the color is taken out of something to make a design. I do other two-dimensional work on paper and paintings.
And how important is it for arts councils around the state, and for instance the one in Bridgewater, to support this kind of effort?
It is absolutely vital. In my view, art is what humanizes human beings. It's something that's specific to human beings.
and it helps to balance out the left brain activities with right brain. So we're using the whole brain as we do art and do creative and intuitive things. For the public library to want to have an art activity this summer for children, and for the Bridgewater Arts Council to help fund that, it's absolutely vital.
More than 30 kids learned how to weave at the library over the summer with Silvercloud, who is a local artist. Their triple rainbow will be installed at the children's room at the library.
We're here at the Bridgewater Public Library today with Beth Silvercloud. She's a local artist, and she has created with some friends a very nice piece of weaving that I understand you've given to the library.
Yes, the children and I worked on it all summer, every Wednesday, and there were about 30 children working on it, and Mrs. Jarvis, the head of the trustees, just accepted it a few minutes ago on behalf of the Board of Trustees in the town of Bridgewater.
Is this the first original piece of art you've had donated to the Children's Department?
It is the first original piece of art, of a project of this magnitude, Liz. It's just taken all summer. It's been a year in progress for it to come to fruition, and we're just delighted with it. There were at least 30 children, most of them who participated more than once. In fact, they would be begging, most of them, week after week, could they sign up for the next week. So we have some future weavers here, I hope.
Now, where is this going to be displayed permanently?
It's going to be right near the children's play area. That's why we have it in such vivid colors, and it will be installed, I would say, 4 to 6 weeks, because we're having a carpenter install it, but it is meant for the children to touch.
They will remember years from now, when perhaps they're bringing their own children up to the children's library, they will remember just the colors that they put in. It's something that when we do something with our hands, it ties into our memories, and it's been a wonderful experience for me, and I trust it has been for the girls. Is that right? There's your answer.